Today we're finishing all the minyan ha-mitzvot, all the 365 negative commandments. We start with Reish Mem Hey, 245. Shelo ligzol, not to rob. Shene'emar lo tigzol, it says you can't rob. Yesterday, the last one was shelo lignov mamon, not to steal money. What's the difference between lignov and ligzol? Lignov is in secret, ligzol is in public. Lignov means to sneak into someone's house. Ligzol is to go over to him in the middle of his day and just rob him. Reish Mem Vav, shelo lahasig gvulot, not to move the boundary marker. Today, everyone's property is clear, but in those times, it was just like you put a little pole in the ground. This is till here is my property, from here is yours. A person can go in the middle of the night and just move the marker. So you're not allowed to do that. Shene'amar lo tasig gvul re'acha. You cannot move the marker of the border of your friend. Reish Mem Zayin 247 shelo la'ashok, not to hold back payments from a worker. Shene'amar lo ta'ashok et re'acha. Don't hold back money from your friend. Reish Mem Chet shelo lekachesh b'mamon chavero. Don't deny your friend's money. Someone gives you $10,000, goes on a trip, he comes back, he says, "Where's my money?" You're not allowed to deny and say, "I don't have it." Shene'amar v'lo tekachashu. Do not deny. Reish Mem Tet 249 shelo lishava al kfirat mamon chavero. Don't swear about the denial. It's a double avera. You tell your friend, "I don't have your money," and I swear that I don't have your money. You're not allowed to do that. Shene'amar v'lo teshakru. Don't lie. Klomar, this means lo tishava lasheker b'mamon sheyesh lechavercha b'yodcha. Don't lie. Don't swear falsely about money that you have of your friend. Reish Nun 250. Shelo yoneh b'mikach u'mimkar. No cheating in buying and selling. Shene'amar al tonu ishet achiv. Don't cheat your friend. Cheating over here means overcharging or underpaying. Reish Nun Aleph. Shelo yoneh bidvarim. No taunting with words. You can't tease somebody else by making fun of them. Shene'amar v'lo tonu ishet amito. Don't cheat each man his friend. Zu ona'at dvarim. This is a reference to cheating with words, making a person feel bad with your words. Reish Nun Bet, a special mitzvah, shelo lehonot et hager bidvarim, not to taunt a convert with words. Shene'amar v'ger lo toneh. Don't cheat the ger. He has extra sensitive feelings. He joined the community. Don't tease him. Reish Nun Gimel 253. Shelo lehonot et hager b'mikach u'mimkar. Another special mitzvah for the ger, not to cheat him with buying and selling. So if you cheat a regular Jew with buying and selling, you get one avera. You cheat a ger, you get two averot. Shene'amar v'lo tilchatzenu. Don't pressure him. That means don't pressure him with buying and selling. Reish Nun Dalet 254. Shelo lahachzir eved shabarach la'eretz Yisrael. Now we're turning to the laws of slaves. So if you have a slave who ran away to Israel from Chutza La'aretz. So let's say he was in Egypt, he was enslaved over there, and he runs over the border and comes to Israel. You can't return him. Eved shabarach la'eretz Yisrael. If a slave ran away to Israel, don't return him la'adonav shebechutza la'aretz, to his master that's back outside of Israel. Shene'amar, asylum, exactly. Grant them asylum. They come to Israel, you let them stay. Shene'amar lo tasgir eved el adonav. Do not deliver a servant to his master. Reish Nun Hey 255. Shelo lehonot eved zeh. This slave who returns, you give him asylum, also don't cheat him. Don't mistreat him. Shene'amar imcha yeshev b'kirbecha. Let him sit with you b'makom asher yivchar batov lo, in a place that he chooses, in a good place. Lo tonenu. Don't mistreat him. Reish Nun Vav. Once we're talking about mistreating people, even though we're in the middle of the laws of slaves, we turn to one parenthetical mitzvah. Shelo la'anot yatom v'almana. Don't mistreat an orphan and a widow. Shene'amar kol almana v'yatom lo ta'anun. Don't pain a widow and an orphan. The Torah says, because they have, again, extra sensitive feelings. And anytime you say something negative to them, it can make them feel really bad. Reish Nun Zayin. Now we return back to the laws of slaves. 257. Shelo la'avod be'eved ivri avodat eved. If you have a Jewish slave, you can't treat him, make him do work of a regular slave. Shene'amar lo ta'avod bo avodat aved. Don't work with him what you would work with a regular slave. Reish Nun Chet. Shelo limkor oto mimkaret eved. When you sell a Jewish slave, you can't sell him like you would sell a regular slave without dignity. On the market, they would put them up on a stone, slave for sale. With a Jewish slave, you have to treat him in kavod. Treat him with respect.
Kind of oxymoron.
Why? Because he's a slave. Oh, so in halacha, a Jewish slave is somebody that was forced to go into servitude. He doesn't have any money to pay his debt. So you have to sell him, but the Torah says, treat him in the most honorable way possible. 259. Shelo la'avod be'eved ivri befarach. You cannot work with a Jewish slave back-breaking work. Shene'emar lo tirdeh bo befarach. Don't rule him with hard labor. The Rambam says later that it refers to very hard labor, but also useless labor. Tell a guy, dig a hole. Why? Because I want you to dig a hole.
Keep you busy.
Keep you busy. Busy work is also not allowed. Reish Samech. Shelo lahaniach hagoy la'avod be'eved ivri hanimkar lo befarech. If you're in Israel and the Jews rule Israel, they also have to be in charge of goyim, that goyim shouldn't treat their Jewish slaves with backbreaking labor. We're allowed to. Of course, today we don't have the authority, but if we had, then it's a mitzvah. He should not, the goy should not treat the Jew with backbreaking work while you watch. Reish Samech Aleph 261. If you have a Jewish maid servant, a girl who was sold to slavery, you can't sell her somewhere else. You don't rule her to sell her. The Jewish slave girl we saw last week, that you're supposed to actually marry her, or your son should marry her. When that happens, if she is a ama ivriyah hayuda, she's a Jewish slave girl that got married, you can't withhold from her any of the regular women's rights. She'er kesus ve'ona, food, clothing, and marital relations. She'ne'amar she'era ksuta ve'onata lo yigra, her food, her clothes, and her time, you cannot hold back. The truth is, the Torah says it about slave girls, but it's true of every man and wife. Every husband has an obligation to provide for his wife food, clothing, and be with her intimately. Reish Samech Gimel 263. Shalo limkor eshet yefat Torah liot shivcha. If you took a captive woman from war, there's a way to do that, to convert her and take her as your wife. But that's it. She's only for marriage, not for sale. Shene'amar lo timkerana, you can't sell her. Reish Samech Daled. Shalo livchbosh eshet yefat Torah liot shivcha. You also can't keep her for yourself as a slave. Shene'amar lo titamer ba, don't work with her. Rather, you have to only marry her and respect her. Reish Samech Hey. Now we move on to a whole bunch of laws between man and his friends, social laws. First of all, shalo lachmod, not to covet, to desire in your heart, to be jealous of someone. Shene'amar lo tachmod eshet re'acha, you cannot desire the wife of your friend. Reish Samech Vav, shalo lihitavot, not to have a desire for somebody else's stuff. Shene'amar lo tetaveh beit re'acha, don't desire your friend's house. What's the difference? Some commentaries explain it's about feeling and then doing something about it. You can't feel the desire and you also can't do anything about it. Reish Samech Zayin, shelo yochal hasachir, shelo bishat gemar melacha, min hamechubar shehu osebo. Last week we saw that if a worker is working with produce, you have to let him eat. However, he can't eat from it if it's something that's attached to the ground and it's not the final stage of work. So let's say he's just working with grapes. He's covering them with pesticides, he's treating them, not cutting them now. Then he cannot eat from the grapes. If he's cutting the grapes, that's when he's allowed to eat from the grapes. So only if you're working with produce, bigmar melacha, in the final stage of work.
The harvest time.
Harvest time. If it's not final stage, you can't eat. Shene'amar v'chermesh lo tanif. You cannot wave a sickle, a cutter, over your friend's produce just because you're working with it. Reish Samechet, shelo yikach hasachir yeter al achilato. Even if he is eating, he can't take more. Can't go and start saving up for lunch and for dinner. Take to go. Exactly. There's no takeout. Whatever you have, that's what you get. Eat grapes according to what you need to fill yourself right now. But you can't put it into your bag. If you're walking down the street and you see somebody's lost object, you can't walk away from it. You can't hide yourself. You have to go and take it and return it. Reish Ayin 270. If you see an animal crouching under its load, you have to help it. You can't just leave it alone. You cannot observe your friend's donkey, your brother's donkey, and just sit there and watch or walk away. Reish Ayin Aleph 271. Not to commit mistreatment or crookedness when it comes to measurement. Now, this mitzvah is referring to your like weights and measures. Weights and measurements. Don't falsify them. Don't say this is a scale for 3 pounds and it's really 2 pounds. More exactly. Shene'amar, because the verse says, Lo ta'asu avel b'mishpat. Don't do any crookedness in judgment. But the tradition tells us, Sha'katuv mazhir, this Torah is warning over here, Lo ta'asu avel b'mishpat hamida. Don't do anything crookedness when it comes to weights. It means we have interpretation from Moshe. That he heard it from the mountain, exactly. Reish Ayin Bet 272. Not only can we not use false weights and measures, shelo lihiyot etzleinu, even ve'even, efa ve'efa. You can't even possess 2 types of stones, 2 types of efa as a measurement, if it's a bad measurement. Even if you don't use it, it can't be in your house.
Buying and selling.
Shene'emar lo yeh lecha beveitcha. You can't have it in your house. Reish Ayin Gimel, Shtalo le'avel hamishpat. This is actual court case. If you're a judge, you can't distort the law. Shene'emar lo ta'asu avel b'mishpat. The second verse. Don't be crooked in judgment. Reish Ayin Dalid, Shelo likach shochad. A judge cannot take a bribe. Shene'emar v'shochad lo tikach. Don't take bribes. Reish Ayin Hey, Shelo lechabed gadol badin. You can't honor a great person in judgment. Oh, he's an important rabbi. I'm going to treat him nicely. I'll let him sit in court. I'll let him wear whatever he wants, say whatever he wants, come whenever he wants. You can't treat greater people with greater honor in court. Shene'emar lo tehadar pnei gadol. Don't honor the face of a great man. Reish Ayin Vav, on the other hand, Shalo yirah hadayan badin mi'adam ra. Don't be afraid of a bad guy. He's in the mafia. If I offend him, he's going to come and kill my kids. You can't. If you're a judge on the court, there's no fear. Shene'emar lo taguru mipnei ish. Don't fear anybody. Reish Ayin Zayin. Shalo lerachem al ani badin. Don't have mercy on a poor man. Say, look, the poor guy, he needs money. I'll tell the rich guy in secret, listen, you're right, but I'm going to make you wrong, so you give him a donation. Doesn't work. Shene'emar v'dal lo tehadar b'rivo. No honoring poor people in their fight. Say the law, whatever it is. Reish Ayin Chet. Shalo lehatot mishpat adam choteh. If you see a person is a rasha, so you're going to be inclined to tell him, to make him wrong. Let him be wrong, let him be chayav. He's anyways wicked. You can't do that. Shene'emar lo tatem mishpat evyoncha. Don't turn the judgment of your poor man. Ze evyon b'mitzvot. Doesn't mean a poor man in money. It means somebody who's poor in mitzvot. You cannot mistreat him just because of that in court. Reish Ayin Tet. Shelo lerachem al hamazik b'dinei knasot. If you have somebody who damaged and he has to pay a fine, you can't have mercy on him. Shene'emar lo tachos eincha. Don't let your eye be merciful. He did something wrong, make him pay. Reish Pei 280. Shelo lehatot mishpat girim v'yitomim. You cannot distort the judgment of converts and orphans. Shene'emar lo tatem mishpat ger yatom. Even though the Torah says ger yatom, a convert who is an orphan, it means both, whether a convert or an orphan. And again, the reason is because of their sensitivity. Reish Pei Aleph 281. Shelo lishmoa me'echad miba'alei dinin ve'in chaviro imo. This is very important. You can't hear the case from one of the litigants if the other guy is not there. Both have to be in court at the same time. Human psychology says that if you hear somebody's claim first, you're automatically going to believe him more. And then when the second guy comes, he's fighting against you. If they both are there at the same time, that's when you listen to them. Shene'emar lo tisa shem hashav. Don't have false or in vain listenings, hearings. No hearings without both litigants. Reish Pei Bet. Shelo lintot acharei rabim b'divrei nefashot. Typically, we have to follow the majority in a court. But if it's matters of capital punishment, someone's going to get killed, you don't follow the majority. Im hayu hamechayvin yoteram ala mizakin echad. If it's only a majority of one. If it's 35 to 34, you don't kill the guy. It has to be 36 to 34. It has to be at least a majority of two. Shene'emar lo tiyeh acharei rabim l'ra'ot. When it comes to doing bad, you don't just follow a simple majority. You have to have a Torah majority, which is a majority of two. Reish Pei Gimel 283. Shelo yelamed chova. On a capital court case, if somebody said innocent, he can't change his mind and say guilty. You cannot answer on a fight just to turn around your opinion. Later on, we're going to see more details about it. Sometimes he could, if a day passes or if he has a good reason. But you can't just switch.
Why? If you find out some
right. If you find out some evidence, yeah. So there's some rules about that. Sometimes it is permissible. But typically the mitzvah is that once you said good, you can't start saying that. Reish Pei Dalid, Shelo lemanot b'dayanin adam she'eino chacham b'dinei Torah. If somebody is not wise in Torah law, you can't make him into a judge. Af al pi shu chacham b'chachmot acherot. Even though he's very wise when it comes to science and math and other wisdom or medicine, but not for Torah, you can't bring him up. Shene'emar lo takiru panim b'mishpat. Don't show favoritism in court. This means favoritism to the judges. You can't appoint a wrong judge. Reish Pei Hey, Shelo leha'id b'sheker. No testifying falsely. Shene'emar, this is in the Ten Commandments. Lo ta'aneh b're'acha ed shaker. Do not call out over your friend a testimony of falsehood. Reish Pei Vav. Shelo ya'id bal avera. If a person is a rasha, he cannot be an aid, cannot be a witness. Shene'emar al tashet yadcha im rasha liot ed chamas. Don't put your hand with a wicked person to be a witness of falsehood. Reish Pei Zayin. 287. Shelo ya'id karov. Relatives cannot be witness. Shene'emar lo yumtu avot al banim. Fathers should not die over their children. From tradition we learn, shelo yumtu avot ve'edud banim. This means that fathers shouldn't die based on the testimony of their children. Same thing for other relatives. There's a whole set of rules how it works. Once you get a certain distance of cousins, like a third cousin could say testimony, but first cousin, brother, sister, of course not, etc. Reish Pechet. Shalol ichrot hadin al pi ed echad. We never decide a case based on one witness. There has to be two. Shene'emar lo yakum ed echad beish. One witness cannot come up against a man. He can make him swear, but you can't decide a case based on one witness. Reish Peitet. Shalol harog naki. Never kill an innocent person. Shene'emar lo tirtzach. 10 Commandments. No murdering. Reish Tzadik. Shalol lachtoch hadin be'omed hadat. You cannot decide a case on circumstantial evidence. Ad sheyir'u shnei edim gufo shel davar. The two witnesses have to see the matter. They can't say, look, I saw two guys run into a building, one guy was carrying a knife. Next thing I know, they come out, this guy's knife is bloody, and that guy is dead on the floor. But I didn't see the actual moment of murder. You can't decide the case. Somebody who's innocent, you can't kill him just because you think he's guilty. If a witness testified about something, a death case, life and death case, he cannot become a judge. It's a Talmudic rule. A witness cannot become a judge. A witness cannot now say a verdict on the soul. If somebody is obviously guilty and has to be killed, you still have to give him a fair trial. You can't kill him before you put him up to court. A murderer never dies until he stands up before the court. If somebody is chasing someone down to kill him, you cannot have mercy on him. Kill him before he reaches the guy he's chasing to kill him or to rape him or her. Cut off her hand, no mercy. If somebody is raped for improper relations, but also anytime a person is forced to do an avera, you never punish them. Do nothing to the girl, because
you're the victim.
Yeah, if you're forced, you can't. You don't. It's not your fault. If a murderer says, "Look, I'll pay you money. Don't kill me. I'll pay you ransom." No taking ransom. No taking ransom for a murderer. If someone murders by mistake and he has to go to the Ir Miklat and spend time in the city over there, you can't take ransom from him either. You can't pay it off. No taking ransom for somebody who has to run away to Ir Miklat. Do not stand by blood. Don't watch while someone dies. You can't stand by the blood of your fellow. Do what you have to do. Save him. Do not put anything that's a stumbling block in your house. You can't have a roof without a fence. You can't have a dog that's going to damage people without a leash. You can't have things that are going to hurt people. You can't make a person who is simple, who is unsuspecting, you can't give him the wrong advice to make him trip. It's not literal, don't put a stumbling block in front of a blind person. It means somebody who's blind in a matter, don't give him bad advice. Shin, number 300. Somebody is obligated to be whipped by the court, you can't give him more than what he's obligated. Do not give more. It's both ways of saying it. Shin Aleph, Shlo Ragel, no gossiping. Shin Emar, Lo Tlich Achil Ba'amecha, don't walk around as a gossiper in your nation. Shin Bet, Shlo Lisno Balev, you can't carry hatred in the heart to another Jew. You have to tell him what it is. Shin Emar, Lo Tisnat Achil Ba'avecha, you do not hate your brother in your heart. Shin Gimel, Shlo Lehalbin Pnei Adam Yisrael, you cannot embarrass a Jewish person. Shin Emar, Hochech Tochech Et Amitecha, you have to rebuke your friend, but don't carry the sin upon him. Don't make him embarrassed in public. Shin Dalit, Shlo Linkom, you cannot take revenge. Revenge means if someone does something negative to you and you purposely do it the same thing back to them because they did it to you. Shin Hei 305 Shalolin Tor, not to carry a grudge. This means someone did something bad to you and you do a favor to them, but you tell them, I'm doing it and I'm not like you that you didn't do it to me. Then you're holding the negative feelings in your heart. Shin Vav Shalol Likach Em Al Habanim, do not take a mother bird with her eggs. Rather, you have to send away the mother bird and then take the eggs. Shin Zayin, if you have tzarat on your head or on your beard, where the hair turns a different color, you can't shave that hair. You cannot shave the netek as a lesion. Shin Chet, other signs of tzarat. If you have on your skin something, you can't cut it out. Shene'emar hishamer benega hatzarat. Be careful with the lesion of tzarat. Shin tet. Shelo la'avod v'lizra b'nachal eitan. In the Nachal Eitan is where they do Egla Arufa. If someone dies and you don't know who killed him, the city has to bring a calf by a certain stream, chop off its neck, and the Kohanim have to say, there's a ceremony that the Kohanim do. It's a whole thing over there. So in that field, that stream, you can't plant in that area. You can't work the ground there. You can't work there and you can't plant there. Shin Yud. Don't let a magician live. Someone who practices sorcery, he has to be killed. A witch, don't let her live. Shin Yud Aleph. The whole first year, a groom cannot be taken to public service. Like war or guarding the city wall. He shouldn't go to the war, to the army, and neither should he be passed over for anything. Shin Yud Bet. We cannot rebel against the high court. This is specifically a rule for a judge. Cannot go away from the court and rule different than the Bet Din. Once the Bet Din decides, everyone has to go with it. No turning from anything I tell you. No adding to the Torah's mitzvahs. Whether the written Torah or the explanation of the oral Torah. Whatever I command you, that's what you guard. Lo tosef alav. 1 second. Don't taking away from any of the mitzvot. Now we're going to get to this later, why or how the rabbis can add mitzvot. He's going to address it later in the whole paragraph today. Shin tetvav. Lo lekalel dayan. No cursing a judge. Shene'emar Elokim lo tekalel. Elohim in the Torah sometimes also means the court. You can't curse a judge. Shin tet zayin shlo lekalel anasi. You cannot curse the nasi, who hamelech or rosh yeshivat Eretz Yisrael, the king of the time or the head of the yeshiva in Israel. Shene'emar v'nasi v'amcha lo ta'or. Do not curse the nasi, the leader in your nation. Shin yud zayin shlo lekalel echad mishar Yisrael. You can't curse any Jew. Shene'emar lo tekalel cheresh. You can't curse a deaf person. And over here it's referring to any person. Cheresh means he doesn't hear you curse, but you say something bad about him. Shin yud chet. Shelo lekalel avaim. You cannot curse your father or mother. Shene'emar mekalel aviv v'imo mot yumat. Shin yud tet. Shelo lekakot avaim. You can't hit your father or mother with a bruise. Shene'emar makeh aviv v'imo mot yumat. If you hit them, you have to die. Mavet b'dei bedin. If you gave your parents a wound to the point that they have a bruise, you get killed. Shin Chaf 320. We learn now about the mitzvahs of the calendar. Shelo la'asot malacha b'Shabbat. No work on Shabbos. Shene'emar lo ta'aseh kol malacha. Don't do any work. Shin Chaf Aleph. Shelo lahalech chutz l'tchum medina ke'olchei drachim b'Shabbat. People that took long journeys, they used to go outside the boundary of a city or a country. We cannot go outside of the tchum, of the border. You can't take a really, really long walk on Shabbat. Shene'emar al yetzei ish mimkomo. A person should not leave his place. Doesn't mean stay in your seat. It means you can't leave your city area. Shin Chav Bet. Shelo la'anosh b'Shabbat.
Is there a number on those?
There's a number, yeah. Biblically it's 12 mil. A mil is about 2.3 miles. And but rabbinically it's even 2,000 amot, which is like 3,000 feet. Outside of a city, but today it's very uncommon because today we live in a place where you just go in one city goes into another. But if you go out there, up north or down south a little bit, and you have cities that are literally separated by long highways, you have a problem. On Shabbat, you can't take a long walk. Yeah, 3,000 feet. Shin Chav Bet. Shelo la'anosh b'Shabbat. Bet Din cannot punish on Shabbat. You can't kill. Shene'emar lo tevaru esh b'chol moshvotechem. You cannot light a fire in all your settlements. This means Bet Din cannot light their fire to kill people. Shin Chav Gimel shelo la'asot malacha barishon shel Pesach. No doing work on the first day of Pesach. Shene'emar kol malacha lo ye'aseh bahem. You cannot do work on those days. Shin Chav Daled shelo la'asot malacha b'shvi'i shel Pesach. No work on the seventh day of Pesach. Shene'emar bo kol malacha lo ye'aseh bahem. Same thing. You can't do work on these days. Shin Chav Hei shelo la'asot malacha b'chag HaShavuot. No work on Shavuos. Shene'emar bo kol melechet avodah lo ta'asu. No labor of work. Shin Chavav shelo la'asot malacha be'echad l'chodesh hashvi'i. On the first day of the seventh month, Rosh Hashanah. No work. Shene'emar bo kol melechet avodah lo ta'asu. Also, no work should be done on them. Shin Chav Zayin shelo la'asot malacha be'yom HaKippurim. No doing work on Yom Kippur. Shene'emar bo b'chol malacha lo ta'asu. You cannot do work on it. Shin Chav Chet shelo la'asot malacha barishon shel Chag. You cannot do work on the first day of Sukkot. Shene'emar kol melechet avodah lo ta'asu. No work of labor you can do. Shin Chav Tet. Shalol la'asot melacha b'yom hashmini shel chag. On Shmini Atzeret, no work either. Shene'emar bo kol melechet avodah lo ta'asu. You cannot do labors of work on it. And now we move on to the list of forbidden relationships. Shin Lamed 330. Shalol legalot ervat em. You cannot uncover the nakedness. It means you cannot have relations with your mother. Shene'emar imcha hi. She is your mother. Lo tegalel ervata. Do not engage in relations with her. Shin Lamed Aleph. Shalol legalot ervat achot. You cannot have relations with your sister. Shene'emar ervat achotcha lo tegaleh. Shin Lamed Bet. Shalol legalot ervat eshet av. Your father's wife you cannot have relations with, even if she's not your mother. Shene'emar ervat eshet avicha lo tegaleh. Your father's wife you cannot uncover her nakedness. Shin Lamed Gimel. Shalol legalot ervat achoto min ha'av o min ha'em. If you have a sister who's only a half sister, from a father or from a mother, it sounds the same as the last one, regular sister, and the Rambam indeed elsewhere says that it's just to have two averot. Shene'emar ervat bat eshet avicha moledet avicha, the daughter of your father's wife. That's your sister, born by your father. Achotcha hi, she is your sister. Lo tegaler vata. You cannot uncover her nakedness. Shin Lamed Dalet. Shalol legalot ervat bat haben. The daughter of your son, so your granddaughter through your son. No relations with her. Shene'emar ervat bat bincha, the daughter of your son. You can't uncover her nakedness. Shin Lamed Hey. Shalol legalot ervat bat habat, daughter of your daughter. Shene'emar o bat bitcha, also the daughter of your daughter. Lo tegaler vatan. Don't uncover their nakedness. Shin Lamed Vav. Shalol legalot ervat habat, also your daughter. Now this doesn't say in the Torah anywhere. Why isn't it clear in the Torah? Since the Torah forbade your granddaughter, it was quiet from the daughter. But it's obvious. So and we have a tradition that the prohibition of your daughter is part of the Torah's mitzvahs, like any other arayot, any other forbidden relations. You cannot marry a woman and her daughter. Mother and daughter, or daughter and mother, same thing. Shene'emar ervat isha ubita lo tegale. Shin Lamed Chet. Shelo legalot ervat isha ubat bena. You can't take a woman and her granddaughter, or a woman and her grandmother. Shene'emar et bat bena, the daughter of her son. Shin Lamed Tet. Shelo legalot ervat isha ubat bita, her granddaughter through her daughter. Shene'emar ve'et bat bita lo tekach. You can't take her and her granddaughter, whether through the son or through the daughter. Shin Mem, Shelo legalot ervat achot ha'em. You cannot engage in relations with your mother's sister, your aunt. Shene'emar ervat achot imcha lo tegale. Shin Mem Aleph, Shelo legalot ervat achot ha'av. Also your father's sister. Shene'emar ervat achot avicha lo tegale. The sister of your father, you cannot uncover her nakedness. Shin Mem Bet, Shelo legalot ervat eshet achi ha'av. Your aunt through marriage, so it's your uncle's wife. Shene'emar el ishto lo tikra dodatcha hi. Don't come close to his wife, she is your aunt. Shin Mem Gimel. Shelo legalot ervat eshet haben. You cannot engage in relations with your daughter-in-law, son's wife. Shene'emar ervat kalatcha lo tegale. Shin Mem Dalet. Shelo legalot ervat eshet ach, the wife of your sister-in-law. Shene'emar ervat eshet achicha lo tegale. You cannot uncover the nakedness of your brother's wife. Shin Mem Hey. Shelo legalot ervat achot ishto, your wife's sister.
So what about Yibum?
The exception. The Torah says this is the only case where you could do it.
And why?
So that you can make
Lakim
children
Shem.
Hakim la'achiv ben. Hakim la'achiv Shem. It's one exception. Yeah. Where am I here?
Shin Mem Hey.
Shin Mem Hey. Shelo legalot ervat achot ishto. You cannot engage in relations with your wife's sister. Shene'emar v'isha le'achota lo tikach. Yeah.
Sister-in-law.
A wife and a sister you cannot take. Shin Mem Vav. Shelo legalot ervat nida. If a woman is a nida, you cannot have relations with her. Shene'emar v'lisha b'nidat tumata lo tikra. Don't come close to a nida in her time of impurity. Shin Mem Zayin shelo legalot ervat eshet ish. A married woman is forbidden, and no adultery. Shene'emar v'el eshet amitcha lo titen shchoftecha lezara. Don't lie with your friend's wife. Shin Mem Chet shelo lishkavim behema. No lying with animals. Shene'emar v'chol behema lo titen shchoftecha lezara. Don't put your zera in animals. Shin Mem Tet. Shlo tavi isha behema aleh. A woman cannot bring an animal upon her. Shene'emar v'isha lo ta'amod lifnei behema l'riva. A woman should not stand in front of an animal to make her pregnant. Shinun shelo lishkavim zachar. No homosexuality. Shene'emar ve'et zachar lo tishkav. You cannot lie with a male. Shinun aleph. Shelo legalot ervat ha'av atzmo. An additional law for your father. Besides for being a male, there's an extra avera for your father. Shene'emar ervat avicha lo tegale. Shinun bet, same thing. Shelo legalot ervat achi ha'av atzmo. There's a special prohibition for your uncle. Shene'emar ervat achi avicha lo tegale. Don't uncover the nakedness of your uncle. Shinun gimel. Here was what you're saying before. Shelo likrav la'arayot. You cannot get close to any woman of these whole list, bidvarim hamevi'in de giluy erva, to anything which would bring to relations. Kigon chibuk, v'nishuk, urumizau, kfitza, no hugging, no kissing, no winking, no making motions, shene'emar, el kol she'er besaro, lo tikrivu legalot erva. To anybody that's related to you, you cannot get close to uncover their nakedness. This is a warning against being close in a way that could bring you to uncovering her nakedness. Shinun dalid, shelo yisam mamzer bat Yisrael. If a person was born from any of these unions, he becomes a mamzer. And a mamzer cannot marry into the Jewish people. Shene'emar lo yavo mamzer b'kal Hashem. A mamzer cannot come into the community of Israel. Shinun hey. Permanent. Yeah, even asar derot. That's like, it means like forever. Shinun hey. Shlo tiyeh kedesha. There should not be a prostitute, a woman who just goes out and has relations with people. V'hi'aniv elet b'lo k'tuba v'kiddushin. She goes out and gives up her body with no ketubah, no kiddushin. Shene'emar lo tiyeh kedesha. There cannot be a promiscuous woman. Shinun vav shelo yachzir ha'megaresh grushato achar sheniset la'acher. If you divorce your wife and she marries someone else and that marriage ends, you cannot bring her back. Shene'emar lo yuchal ba'ala harishon asher shilcha lashuv lekachta. The first husband who sent her away cannot go back and take her. Shinun zayin shelo tinaseh hayavama li'ish zar chutz mi'ivama. When a woman's husband passes away childless, she has to marry the brother. She can't just marry anybody else. Shene'emar lo tiyeh eshet hamet. Unless you do chalitza, which is the process of the shoe and the whole thing. But until then, she is in the wings for him, and she cannot marry anybody else. Shinun chet. Shelo yigaresh ha'ones anusato. If someone rapes a woman, he cannot divorce her. Shene'emar lo yuchal shelcha kol yamav. He can't send her away all his days. Shinun tet. Shelo yigaresh motzi shem ra'at ishto. If a person says something bad about his wife's virginity, and then it's discovered to be false, he can't divorce her. Shene'emar lo yuchal shelcha kol yamav. He can't send her away all his days. Shin samech. Shelo yikach saris bat Yisrael. If a person doesn't have the ability to have children, he cannot marry a Jewish woman. Shene'emar lo yavo p'tzua daka. A person who has crushed organs cannot marry anybody. Shin samech aleph. Shelo yisares zachar mikol aminim. We cannot castrate any male from any type, human or animal. Lo adam v'lo behema chayav v'of. Animal, beast, or bird. Shene'emar v'artzachem lo tasu. Don't do this in your land. Shin samech bet. Shelo lemanot al Yisrael ish mikahal geirim. The last 4 mitzvahs are about kings. You cannot appoint on the Jewish people a king who is a convert. Shene'emar lo tuchal atet alecha ish nachri. Don't put upon yourself a goyish person. It means a Jew who comes from converts. Shin samech gimel. Shelo yarbeh hamelech susim. A king cannot have too many horses. Shene'emar lo yarbeh lo susim. Cannot have horses, too many. Shin samech daled. Shelo yarbeh hamelech nashim. Can't have too many wives. Shene'emar lo yarbeh lo nashim. You should not increase wives. And the final one, shin samech hey. Shelo yarbeh lo hamelech kesef v'zahav. Can't have too much silver or gold. Shene'emar v'chesef v'zahav lo yarbeh lo me'od. Silver and gold, he shouldn't have too much for himself. Now the Rambam says, Elu hein shesh me'ot u'shlosh mitzvot shene'emru leMoshe b'Sinai. These are the 613 mitzvahs that were given to Moshe. Hen u'kalotehen u'pratotehen v'dikdukehen. Them, their general laws, their specific laws, their details. V'chol otan ha'klalot v'hadikdukin v'habiurin shel kol mitzvah u'mitzvah. And all the rules and the precisions and the explanations of all the mitzvahs, hi Torah sheba'al peh shekiblu beidin mipid beidin. That's what Torah sheba'al peh is. The oral Torah is how to do every mitzvah. However, v'yesh mitzvot acherot shenidchadshu achar matan Torah. There are other mitzvahs that came into being after matan Torah. The kavu otan nevi'im v'chachamim, made by the prophets and by the sages. Upashtu b'chol Yisrael, and they spread to all the Jews. Kigon mikram Megillah, reading Megillah on Purim. V'ner Chanukah, lighting candles on Chanukah. V'tani Tisha B'av, fasting on Tisha B'av. V'yadayim, washing your hands for bread. V'eruvin, and making different eruvs to be able to carry on Shabbat. And these mitzvahs also have many explanations and laws. Everything will be explained in this work. Now says the Rambam, all of these mitzvot that came into being through the rabbis, we have to receive them and guard them. You cannot go away from the words that the court tells you. And they're not considered to be an addition to the Torah's mitzvahs. How so? So what did Torah mean when it said lo tosef alav v'lo tigram mimenu, no adding or no subtracting? Shelo yiyeh navi rashai lechadesh davar. It means that a prophet cannot come and say something new. V'lomar she'akadosh baruch hu tzivao b'mitzvah zu lohosifa lemitzvot Torah. You can't say Hashem told me now there's 614 mitzvahs or 612. Or to take away from the 613. They didn't add to the Torah. Aval imosifu beidinim navi sheyaboto azman mitzvah. If the court or a navi in that time added a mitzvah, derech takana, or derech hora'ah, or derech gzeirah, as an enactment or a law or a decree, ein zot tosefet. That's not adding. Shaharei lo amru shakadosh baruch hu tziva la'asot eruv or likrot monata. They never said Hashem said to make an eruv or to read the Megillah. V'ilu amru kein. If they said that, hayu mosifin Torah, they would be adding, and that would be a problem. Elakachanu. I mean, this is what we say. Shaneviim im beidin tiknu v'tzivu likrot hamigillah monata. It was the prophets and the court who made the takana, commanded us to read the Megillah. Kedei lahazkir shvachav shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu u'tshuvot shasalanu, to remember His praises and all the salvation that He did for us. Vayakarov l'shav'enu, and that He was close to saving us. Kedei levarcho u'lehalalo, so we can bless Him, so we can praise Him. U'kedei lehodia l'adorot habayim she'emet ma she'ivtichanu b'Torah, and to let everybody know in the future that Hashem's promise in the Torah is true. Shene'amaru mi goy gadol asher lo elokim krovim elav, that we have a great nation, that Hashem is close to Him. And the same thing applies to all mitzvot derabanan, ben aseh or ben lo taseh, whether do's or don'ts. They're not additions to the Torah, they are their own additions so that we can praise Hashem in a better way.